All right, now to get more analysis, we're joined in our Beijing studio by Ms. Wang Xiaobing, former Associate Managing Editor of Caixin Media. And also here in the studio is Mr. Rick Dunham. He is co-director of the Global Business Journalism Program at Tsinghua University. Welcome to both of you. And also over in Hong Kong studio, we have Mr. Yang Jianxing, former editor-at-large of South China Morning Post, and also founder and editor of Voice of Hong Kong opinion website. Welcome, Mr. Yang, to the program. And all right, now let's begin with our studio guest here. Well, Ms. Wang, let's first make clear Jack Ma's intentions. Why is this e-commerce giant Alibaba buying into traditional media, which is seen by some as a sunset industry?
Yeah, that's the first question. Everybody heard this news. I'm not Jack Ma. I don't know what he thought. Everybody knows that it's a hard time for all the media, and so does SCMP.
You mean economically? They're suffering from a bad fortune.
Yeah. It's difficult to make money. Yeah. So, it's easy to compare this case with Bezos bought Washington Post. But actually, I think the big difference is Jack Ma is not Bezos. Bezos himself bought the Washington Post. He's a billionaire and
he used his own money.
Yeah. He really invested a lot of money to encourage all the engineers and editors and the reporters to do everything that they can to get reader and stick to reader on internet.
Right.
Yeah. But Alibaba is a New York listed company.
Does this move look to you like a business move or a political move?
I think mainly political. Yeah.
You think it's political? What about you, Mr. Dunham? What does this move look like to you?
I think there are three possibilities. One is political, which would be either to change the emphasis of the South China Morning Post or an agenda of his own. Secondly, could be vanity, to own something that is really prestigious and historic. And the third could be as a business venture, to be part of I call it the business of everything. That if you are in China or around the world, that you can bank with Alibaba, you can buy products with Alibaba, you can get your news with Alibaba, you can get your movies from Alibaba, produced by Alibaba. So it is possible that it is an integrated communications and purchasing company.
Well, let me ask Mr. Yang over in Hong Kong. So business, political, or vanity? Mr. Dunham just mentioned three options. Which looks more like to you?
Well, first, Alibaba is in an expensive mode. I think they have made good money. They have just been listed in the U.S. stock market. And I think they look for opportunities and new areas of growth. If we look at SCMP, it has a long history. I think the biggest asset of SCMP is really its brand name and reputation as an independent, credible news media. If we read, say, the Group Vice Chairman's letter to readers, first, of course, he argued that there's a compelling business case for buying SCMP. But more importantly, actually, he made no secret their hopes that SCMP will help tell the story about China, about Alibaba. And by telling the story in a fair and balanced manner, Alibaba believes that that will be good for Alibaba, good for businesses, and good for China as a whole. So Alibaba, as now a global business, will benefit from having a media platform that gives an accurate and balanced picture about China. and that's where the Alibaba can get benefits out of it.
Let me just jump in here, Mr. Yang, and ask our panel this. Immediately after the announcement of the acquisition, there are concerns and fears about the possibility of the erosion of freedom of expression. Many think that after Jack Ma owns this newspaper, South China Morning Post will lose or will soften its coverage on many topics that it used to cover that are off limits to the mainland. What are your takes on this, Mr. Dunham?
I think just like with the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos, we're going to find out. We're going to find out in time whether there's a difference. And there are two kinds of things that I see. One is the stories they cover and what they write about. And the second is editorial point of view. I mean, Alibaba and Jack Ma can have a strong editorial point of view pro-mainland if they don't cross the line into the coverage and let that remain independent. And it just remains to be seen. We don't know what's in Jack Ma's mind right now, but that's what the world's going to be watching.
And it's going to make access easier for its readers. For example, it's going to break the online paywall to boost the South China Morning Post's online presence. How important is that?
I think that's crucial, and that's one thing that Jeff Bezos realized very quickly at the Washington Post. The Washington Post has moved ahead of the New York Times because it has a soft paywall, and they push out a lot of their content while the New York Times has a much harder paywall. South China Morning Post is limited in its scope right now because it has a hard paywall. I mean, I can't read it regularly if I don't subscribe. So I think the access to the South China Morning Post to some excellent editorial content and to the opinions that he wants will be expanded with the end of that paywall. I think it's really important to build the brand using the most modern technology, social media, and more interactive, more multimedia elements than are on the site right now. It's a good site, but it could be a lot more modern. There could be a lot more that he could do with it to make it more interactive and to build the community.
And certainly he has the money and the resources and the technology to make that work. Now, let me ask you, Mr. Yang, in Hong Kong, you've been working in South China Morning Post in the past. Now, can we expect a major change in editorial direction or a big change of staff in the newspaper?
Well, first, it really depends on what Jack Ma wants to see the new SCMP. Whether it is he's hoping that the SCMP will just tell the good story about China, or he wants the SCMP to tell the true story about China. If it's just about the good stories, even though, say, the paywall will be pulled down, people can have free access to it. But if readers found the stories there are not the true full stories about the China, but just to say the extreme propaganda, then I think in this age of, say, information bowl, people have just lots of choices. They won't spend time on reading, say, propaganda. And secondly, if the idea is to have a comprehensive, full coverage of China, then I think the structure of staff, the resources, have to have, say, major changes. Over the past 112 years, yes, SCMP has strong coverage about China, but it's a Hong Kong-based newspaper. The main stories on the front pages are mostly Hong Kong storage, which might not be a great interest to a lot of people outside China, except for perhaps during the handover. That's 18 years ago. So the staff structure, the resources have to see major changes. And also one very important point, that if the main story is about China, will Hong Kong be still used as the base of the newspaper, or they will have a bigger setup in, say, the capital city, Beijing, and many other major cities in mainland China. So I guess there may be more changes.
So Mr. Yang is expecting
things, yeah.
more changes. What about you, Mr. Dunham? Do you see the possibility of establishing other offices or other bases in the mainland?
I think he raised a really important point, which is
that would be institutional changes.
Why can't this be the Chinese equivalent of USA Today, and instead of the South China Morning Post, the China Morning Post, or the Morning Post for all of China? We don't know what's in Jack Ma's mind again, but if the biggest thing he is producing is content that can be shared on the internet, content that can be shared on whatever platform he wants, content that can be shared in print, whether it's in Hong Kong or around China or the world. But it will take resources. I mean, that would take huge additional staffing as well as reshuffling of the resources within Hong Kong. I think the first thing to see is what happens in Hong Kong. Most ownership, when it shifts to corporate ownership from family or other, tends to have evolution and change. The first day you don't have firing of the editors and firing of the staff. Things happen over a period of 6 months to 2 years. I think that's what will happen here.
And it's taken 2 years to see the changes happening in Washington
Right.
Post. And now, Mr. Dunham, the plan is for Alibaba to offer its technological expertise and to marry that with the wonderful journalism track records of the South China Morning Post. So who will have a bigger say in terms of content?
I think the content is the South China Morning Post. I mean, whether it's the current staff or people he brings in. I think the technology, you're going to see some of the skill of Alibaba that doesn't exist at South China Morning Post integrated into that. And I think a lot of it will be to make it more user-friendly and to help in multimedia storytelling. I think that's where it comes in. But again, he will have all sorts of new information. In this big data age, South China Morning Post is going to give him a huge amount of data on its current readers, and if it works according to his plan, its future readers. And those are not only customers of the South China Morning Post, they could be Alibaba customers.
And certainly more details will be rolled out in the near future. We'd like to thank our panel, Mr. Wang Xiaobing, Mr. Rick Dunham, and Mr. Yang Jianxing over in Hong Kong.